This is my second video from my series to create Dara Robot. Also, it is tools that you're going to need if you are thinking of 3D printing, if you're thinking of getting into robotics, or you are designing 3D 3D parts. Today we're going to be discussing the tools that you will need to make robots, the tools that you need to get into 3D printing, the tools that you're going to need for electronics. I have created a few links here. The first one is for dararobots.com. The website is under construction. So any feedback that you want to see there, chat rooms, list of parts, the shop room, anything else that you can think of, send me a message and I will consider it and ask Alex to add it as he sees fit. Also, he's learning as he goes, so a little bit of patience, please. If anybody knows how to do web designing, the help would be gratefully appreciated. The second one is YouTube that I created. Originally, it was just for me to put my videos for my progress, to see the things that I have been accomplishing and how things have moved. But once I started sharing my files in Thingiverse, people started asking me for comments, and they asked me how this works. So I started creating videos and sharing that location. Originally, that was not the name of the channel. You have to get to 100 members in order to type a custom URL. Thank you, all of you guys, that you have helped me get to that 100. So I was able to change that name. Very appreciative. I didn't like all those weird numbers, but honestly, thank you so much. The third one is Thingiverse. That's where I put all the files. Well, not all the files. Some of the files that I create for the robot, and also for tools, parts, things that I think is important. So they're there. There are parts that are not completely finished, so I don't post them. I originally used this site so I could put my files. It wasn't to give things out. It was just a place so I could find tools, parts, and place them. So it was never meant for business. It was never meant for sharing into YouTube or making a channel. It was just a place where I could put my files. The fourth is a Patreon website. Nobody has donated yet, and if it happens, it happens. I would appreciate things like that. There are parts that you will not find in Thingiverse, and you might not even find in YouTube videos. There are specific files, and only people who are in the Patreon will be able to get those files. I am sorry that I'm not sharing everything for free. Dara has cost me probably about $3,000, $4,000 so far, because I keep buying parts. I keep trying parts. Sometimes don't work, some things work. I keep buying silicone castings, different filaments, books. So it is a hobby, but it's an expensive hobby. And that would be another recommendation that I can tell you. If you do not have money to buy few tools, certain things, don't start this project. You will spend some money, some serious money. This is not a project for you. The fifth website is my Amazon wish list. Some people prefer to just buy me 3D filaments or some tools or some parts that I need, and I appreciate those things, and I help by giving files that are not free in Thingiverse. So just remember that and take that into consideration. All right, so let's start with this video to show you the tools that you're gonna need. The first tool that you're gonna need, and is a must, is a measuring tool. It's a digital caliper. Without a digital caliper, you do not know exact measurements in order to make your designs. This is a must, a number one. I did not put links to a website, to Amazon, because you can buy this at a local hardware. I have seen these things for $10, $15. You can buy a used one for $5, $6. As long as you take care of them, they last forever. Protect your tools, clean your tools, put them away. This is the first tool that you're going to need, and it is a must. Next is a 3D printer. If you're going to get into robotics and you're going to make your own parts, or you're going to replicate a robot from somebody else, maybe the eMove, uh, any other robots that you might want to replicate, you will need a 3D printer. I have got messages from people from other countries that they don't have access to 3D printers. I am sorry that you guys don't have access to it or the money to be able to buy those things. If you do not have money to purchase a 3D printer, I would recommend to make 3D designs, sell your designs. Maybe you can make money by selling your designs, which should be free. And from the sales of those files, you can probably start buying a printer. I originally started with a 3D printer from Monoprice. And this printer, it is good for a start. It's only 4 inches by 4 inches and by 4 inches height. If you're planning on doing something bigger than that, this is not the printer for you. I don't recommend you starting with this printer because it will get too small too soon. I know that you can probably buy a different printer for $220. That's probably 10 inches by 10 inches. The second printer that I got was a Monoprice Select Plus, and that gave me a 10 inch by 10 inch area by probably 11 inches height. This printer was better. I had problems printing. The heating was not consistent. I had a lot of issues with it. It was a learning curve. And one day I went to a website that sells used stuff, cars and tools, real estate. And I searched for 3D printers and I was able to find an artillery um, X1 Sidewinder. And I love this printer. Yes, it's not a perfect printer. You have to learn certain things and you have to join the group. So when you come up with those problems, you can ask and people will help you resolve the problems. So this is my favorite printer. The prints are consistent. They are it is they're solid parts. Now, other people will tell me that they prefer another printer. Hey, that's their preferences, and you guys can decide what you want to buy. That's up to you. But a 3D printer is a must. Next, you will need your filament. This is the material that you use on your 3D printer to create the parts. The parts mostly used are ABS. They use the same material as to create Legos. I haven't used it myself because my printer came with PLA originally, and it is very, very easy to print. It prints at the temperature of 195, which is almost the lowest, 200. Usually I print at 210, so I can speed it up. But PLA is like the beginner novice material that you can start with. It's very, very easy to start with. As you get going and you get better, you can start changing to nylon, to PVA, to PEG. You will have to learn how to use those materials. Some of these materials require for you to cover your 3D printer. You cannot just leave it in the open air. It has to be enclosed. You will have to go to the internet and ask questions, and everything is a learning curve. But these are the materials that are available. There are many, many available materials, and you will learn as you go. So don't be afraid. The next thing is you're going to need is a software, an AutoCAD software, so you can create your files. I already created another video where I show how to create parts with 123 Design. You can use any software that you prefer, but you will need a 3D design program. Also, I like Mesh Mixer because it allows me to do certain things that AutoCAD programs will not allow me to do. So those are two programs that I use. They're free. You can download them and put them on the computer, and they're easy to use. The next thing you will need, and not everybody needs it, some people just buy a printer and they can print directly into the printer and always sticks. It's not that simple. Sometimes the table doesn't cooperate with you and you have to use either tape. Scotch tape is what normally people use to 3D print. I usually use spray glue. I spray a little bit into the table, let it dry for a second, turn the heater on for the table, and let it dry. And I have perfect success with that. My parts glue into it, and I can use it for probably a whole week or two printing parts. I originally used vinyl ease transfer paper for sign makers. If you have a local sign maker, they have this tape. You can actually go buy 12 inches of this stuff, a foot or 2 feet of that stuff, a whole roll. And what you do is the size of your 3D printer, these tapes come pre-cut to any size. So they start from half inch, 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, all the way to, I believe, 12, 36 inches. My printer is 14 inches, so I usually buy the 14-inch printer paper. I stopped using it, or actually, after using the super glue, the spray glue, I have noticed that I have success. I don't have to be changing papers. I don't have to putting tape on the table. So my recommendation would be the spray paint, the spray glue. You do have to clean your table. I would say every 3 months, every 6 months, every maybe a year, because the glue will accumulate little by little, and you have to do maintenance on your printer, so you're gonna have to clean it. The next tools that you're gonna need is the basic 3D printing tools. Your printer will probably come originally with a spatula. That means that you can remove parts from there, from your printer. It won't come with anything else but a spatula. Um, you will need X-Acto knives. You will need a clipper to be able to cut pieces. Tweezers are important. One of my most important tools are the mini picks, the hooks. It allows me to get into places and remove extra parts that I don't need. The ice pick, which is the straight one, it helps me create holes. So if I make a design in the printer for a hole, and the printer does not print the size exactly that I need, I can insert this tool and create the hole to the size that I need. So this is one of the most important tools that I have used, the straight mini pick, the hooks. You will be able to need also a something to cut. A nice saw is nice, so if there's extra pieces you can cut off. It is not necessary. I don't usually need one, but I have it. I would recommend it that you get one too. One of the most important tools also that I have is these tweezers. They're used for in operation rooms, and they help me grab screws and hold wires in place. And usually I use 2 or 3, but it's nice to actually have them. It's like having a second hand or a third hand and to hold pieces. Important tool is going to be a Sharpie. You're going to need both. One is going to be a fine print, and the thicker ball pen, because when you make parts, sometimes if you're designing parts yourself and not just downloading files from somebody else, you will want to make changes to those parts. So you're gonna be able to write on version 1. You can type the date that you created a file. Say, no, it didn't work because of this. Make drawings on it and say, I need to add a hole here. Remove this. Add another screws or another section here. So Sharpies are important. The next tool is going to be drill bits. Go and find yourself a kit that comes with a bunch of them, from the most smallest, and I'm talking to you, I believe that the smallest one that I have is number 60, which probably is a little thinner than 1/16. It's probably 1/32. You want to go from the very smallest one to half-inch. It's very important to have these things because you're going to drill holes and you're going to need exact measurement holes. So you're going to have a set where you can actually pick whatever size precisely you need. Screwdrivers are necessary. I don't use them that much. I only have one tool that is a flathead in one side and a Phillip in the other side, and that is what like I use the most. But a nice kit that comes with everything, so you can hang it on the wall, would be nice. So you can use it around the house also. Files. Normally your prints will be too big, so you will have to make them smaller by sanding them. Sanding paper also is necessary. Sometimes you are going to need not to just drill a hole, but also to make threads on it. So the thread maker is a nice tool to have with different heads, so you can put screws and you can make your parts perfectly fit in, so you can take the screw in and out. If you make 3D designs and the hole are too small and you put in the screw without making threads on it, they will lock, and they are very hard to remove once they are in there. If you make it too big, it won't fit. So you're gonna have to put something in the hole to make it bigger, and they will lock again. One of my most used tool is a little hand tool, like a drill. This one I like because I can change the speed and it's comfortable in my hand. If you have a regular drill, it will work. It's just heavier. Um, this thing is very comfortable. And I have purchased heads for cutting. There are diamond to cut metal, um, sanding papers, um, drill bits, different tools. I love this. One of my most used tools is that little drill. You don't really need a 3D printer pen, but sometimes when you want to join pieces, it's a nice thing to have. If you have a hole and you don't need that hole, you can fill the hole with this pen. It is nice to have because you can actually make things that your 3D printer doesn't do. Glue gun. I stay away from glue guns. Some people have it. It's nice to have next to you just in case you need it. I hate them. I usually hold parts of electronics on things with a little bit of silicone, because if I need to remove it, silicone will allow me to remove my part and reuse it again. Electronics. Once you get into electronics and you are making your parts and purchasing parts, you will get to use these tools. One of the most used tools besides the caliper is a multimeter. This is a second tool that you must have because you need to take measurements of voltages, the amperages, amps, ohms. Sometimes you need to check a connection if there's a wire is connecting. One of the simplest errors that I have found is that sometimes I'm not getting signal from one servo or from a wire, and it's actually a wire that is broken in the side, in the middle, and the signal is not getting there. So testing it to check if that wire has continuity is what is very important. This tool is a must. Next, you will need a power supply. This one is 5 volts and 10 amps. This is what I use to test any servos and any electronics. And every time I make anything for Dara, I test it with this. This is my number one power supply. It's cheap. You can find this in Amazon or other places. Remember, electronics come in different flavors, different voltages. Some electronics don't like anything more than 3 volts. So if you use a 5-volt power supply, you will burn it, we will damage it. If the electronic requires 5 volts and you don't have enough, it won't work. If you have a lot of things connected that require 5 volts and each one is draining power, if you don't have enough amperage, they won't work. So I would suggest to start with 5 volts, 10 amps, and after your robot becomes bigger and requires more power, then you want to go with a bigger power supply, like the one here on the right. Not really needed, but it was. I got one for my birthday. Sometimes I ask for when on my Christmas as a Christmas gift, and this is how I get my tools. Every year on my birthday and on my Christmas, I ask for something that I need. I would suggest you to do the same and get all your tools slowly. The next tool that you're going to need is a welder. This one has hot air and it is to desolder very small electronics. This is a little too fancy. I myself, I hate welding. I am not really good at welding, and I wish I could go take a class and learn welding electronics. It is an art, and you will damage a lot of electronics at the beginning, trying to put power and blowing the circuit boards, the small IC circuit. If by putting too much heat, you will destroy them. I found the hard way. So just be careful. You can buy a cheap one that is probably $10–15, and you can start with that. Just Google videos in YouTube and for welding, for soldering, so you can learn and take patience. Maybe even start with some electronics that you find at old TV, at old radio, and start removing parts and welding parts as a as so you can get good at it. All right, this does it for this video. It shows all the tools that you will need. Come visit dararobots.com. I put an S on Dara Robots because I'm planning that maybe we can put links to different robots that accomplish to create Dara. But come visit the YouTube channel, join, so that way you know when I put a new video or put a new part. Guys, thank you so much for joining me, and you are always welcome. Come back again.